3 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, and 9 deep at a position where your New England Patriots still need some help. The 53-man roster is set. Stick around. You're about to be locked into the Locked On Patriots podcast.
You are Locked On Patriots, your daily New England Patriots podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello to all of you Foxborough faithful, and thank you once again for making Locked On Patriots a daily part of your New England Patriots coverage. Remember, Locked On Patriots is not only a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day, but we are also free and available on all platforms, including YouTube. So smash that subscribe button and download and follow Locked On Patriots wherever you get your podcasts to ensure you're getting the latest episode as soon as it's available. I'm your host, Mike Debate. I cover your New England Patriots for Patriots Country of Athlon Sports. So reach out to me. Let me know what's on your mind on X at MDABATENFL. And while you're out there showing some love to Locked On Patriots social media style, please follow our account there as well at LO_Patriots. And Pats fans, today's episode brought to you by FanDuel. Now, through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And Pats fans, your New England Patriots have set their initial 53-man roster for 2024. And of course, remember, folks, we're calling this the initial 53-man roster. There are tweaks. There are little adjustments that will be made between now and opening day. So be sure to keep a sharp eye out for those roster adjustments, and we'll continue to bring you the latest here on Locked On Patriots. But this evening, we're going to go down all of the avenues. We're going to bring you the ups, the downs, the surprises, and where this team still needs help. But we're going to start things off at the quarterback position. And joining me here today to break down all of the Patriots roster moves is my esteemed colleague of Patriots Country of Athlon Sports. You know his great work from WNSP in Mobile, Alabama. He is my good friend, Michael Brauner. Michael, thank you for joining me today. Welcome back to Locked On Patriots.
Absolutely. It's always a pleasure, Mike. Thanks for having me once again.
Anytime, my friend. And I'm so glad that you were able to join me here on Roster Cutdown Day, because it's a big day in Patriots Nation. Really, it's a big day throughout all of the NFL. There's a lot of roster activity going on. Your New England Patriots were certainly not averse to that. They were not immune to it. They had to cut down their team from 90 to 53 and did that within a span of about 48 hours. We're going to get to all of the roster moves today, folks, and we're going to get to all of the ins and outs and the ups and downs here. But I wanted to read you a stat first, Mike, before we start getting into some of the other positions on the team, because arguably all eyes were on the quarterbacks, and a lot of people wanted to know, are the Pats going to go 4 deep at the quarterback position? Are they only going to carry 3? Could they possibly shock everyone and only carry 2? Well, we got our answer, Mike. They're carrying 3 quarterbacks. And last season, in 2023, the Patriots rostered 8 quarterbacks throughout the entire season. This is not all at one time, folks, but throughout the entire season, 8 players were on the quarterback depth chart for your New England Patriots. Mac Jones, Bailey Zappe, Trace McSorley, Malik Cunningham, Matt Corral, Ian Book, Will Grier, and Nathan Rourke. Well, all of those 8 players are no longer in a New England Patriots uniform as of 4 p.m. on Tuesday. Bailey Zappe, one of the cuts this year. I don't want to say it was unexpected. I don't want to say it was shocking, but it was still a bit of a surprise to see his name on the list. Mike, when you watched and you looked at Bailey Zappe being the odd man out, what were your reactions to that? And what are your reactions to the Patriots carrying 3 quarterbacks for the initial 53-man roster?
Yeah, I never expected them to carry 4. That always kind of seemed like a little bit of a ridiculous idea to me. And Mayo kind of was weird. He kind of entertained the possibility of that. He said, during the spring that they wanted to go into camp with all 4, which is fine. I don't know. I think Zappe playing in the preseason was a little bit of a waste of time. I think we kind of know what we have from Bailey Zappe, and it's not to kick Bailey Zappe when he's down and out the door already. I mean, he did some fine things. He went 500 as a starter on a terrible team and won some games for the team. So, props to Bailey Zappe and appreciate everything he did. He was never going to make this team. I don't think there was ever really a chance he was going to make this team. Joe Milton would have had to look so – obviously, Brissett and May were locks, but Joe Milton would have had to look so bad and show just about nothing, which ironically is kind of what happened during his senior year at Tennessee. And, people who watch college football, especially the SEC, know that pretty well. That's why no one was clamoring for their team to draft Joe Milton. But, you know about the arm strength, you know about the speed, so he's at least an exciting prospect. He did enough, especially in the Carolina game. He was exciting enough where, he's the third quarterback. Why would we not keep Joe Milton over letting Bailey Zappe try to get an opportunity somewhere else? And I think this is probably the best case for Bailey Zappe, too. I'd seen people throw out, would he come back to the practice squad? And I don't know why he would. I think there's a lot of teams out there who need a backup quarterback right now. You look at a team like Minnesota, someone like that. Zappe should get an opportunity elsewhere, and I think he will. I'd be surprised if he's not on a roster. But in terms of a surprise, no. I mean, there was one way this quarterback situation was going to play out, and I think you saw that today.
Yeah, I agree with you. I know there have been times here on these airwaves where that has been discussed. My good friend Thomas Murphy joined us here yesterday and said that it was an idea that the Patriots should at least kick the tires on, because if Jacoby Brissett does indeed have any type of shoulder problems, lingering shoulder problems from the injury he sustained in the preseason finale, then you're possibly looking at having Drake come in when he's not ready, or Joe Milton coming in when he's completely not ready. It makes sense to have a veteran on staff, but I agree. I don't think that it was ever going to be Zappe. I think that if the Patriots are going to roster a veteran on the practice squad, I think you're going to see him come in from outside the organization. I don't believe it's going to be someone internally. Look, the past couple of years that Bailey Zappe has been in this quarterback room, he's done everything the Patriots have asked him to do. He came in, made the starts when he needed to, I think played fairly well throughout the most part of it. There were some times where he did look like a career backup, or he did look like he was having his struggles and wasn't capable of being the sustained starter for this team. But by and large, I think he gave you an opportunity to at least be competitive in most of the games that he played in, and you got to give him credit for that. Zappe is probably not going to stick around via the practice squad. I'd be very surprised if that happened. I know a lot of people were saying, well, it happened last year. Folks, it was a completely different circumstance last year. Patriots cleared out their entire quarterback room with the exception of Mac Jones, and there were rumblings about the reasons why, in terms of being able to manage the roster a little bit better, gain some roster spots that they normally wouldn't have had, utilize the practice squad and the elevations to their maximum ability, and it allowed them to be able to do that with Zappe and then sign him to the 53-man roster at a later time. They're not under those restraints this year. And second of all, Bailey has years under his belt now. He's not going to want to hang around when he feels that there probably will be options out there for him and a chance for him to be able to lock on maybe as a backup option and maybe even get a spot start. You mentioned Minnesota. Yeah, I think they'd be interested in someone like Bailey. So obviously the Patriots had their opportunities to keep four quarterbacks. They didn't. Bailey Zappe is the odd man out. I give him a tip of the cap on the way out because, again, I do think he did everything the Patriots asked him to do, including come into this preseason and this offseason workout program with a lot of class. I think he handled his situation very well. I think he was a good teammate for the most part, at least from those that I've spoken to close to the organization. So definitely deserves some credit on that, and we wish him well no matter where he ends up. But, Michael, the question beckons now. The Patriots are going with a completely different quarterback room than they had last year. The veteran Jacoby Brissett, still the front runner, in my opinion, to get the starting nod. Drake May nipping at his heels. I think that handover happens earlier than we thought it would, and Joe Milton going to be the third guy in that room now. What are your thoughts on the Patriots quarterback situation as it's currently constituted?
I think I, like everyone else, would like to see Drake May start. There's no question about that. I mean, we know it's probably going to be a long season, and if Drake May comes in and shows anything, no one's expecting him to come in and be CJ Stroud and take the team to the playoffs and have a borderline MVP year as a rookie. No one is expecting, especially with what the team has to work with. But I think you saw I was way back and forth how to judge, especially the Washington preseason game, because Washington rested what was it, 34 of their starters. They didn't play a single starter on Sunday night in Washington. So Drake did some really good things, but at the same time, it was against guys who got cut today. So you have to understand that, and you have to weigh that in. At the same time, with the state of the offensive line is the obvious. And I'm sure we'll talk about that later. That's the big elephant in the room. Elliot Wolf has said, and Gerard Mayo has said, we don't want to just throw Jacoby to the Wolves. We want whoever the starter is to be our quarterback. And of course, they're going to say that publicly. But at the same time, can you imagine if Drake May came in, started the season, and week 3 against San Francisco, he had a season-ending injury? That's a disaster for the coaching staff and for the front office, especially if it was likely due to poor offensive line play. So I guess I'm for Jacoby starting the year. I just don't think I think May should be starting by week 5 after that, 4-game stretch at the beginning. I think that's how most people feel. But is anyone that much that confident that things are going to be that much better by week 5 on the offensive line than they are by week 1? I think he's shown that, in terms of weathering the storm of offensive line issues, there's no one better on the roster equipped than Drake May to do that. Just by escaping, and you saw the 3rd and 14 on the third play of her first drive on Sunday when he scrambles out the middle. I didn't even know he was that fast. I knew he could move, but he showed another gear. So I think Drake May, which I didn't think this was going to be the case, I think Drake May does give this team the best chance to win football games, but it's, you got to weigh the fact that the offensive line is a mess, and you don't want your rookie quarterback to go out there and get hurt.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you on the fact that Drake May does give them the best chance to win, and probably is the most exciting quarterback of all the 3 to watch, with the exception of maybe watching Joe Milton launch a 70-yard pass out there. That arm is impressive. You'd love to see it. But at the same time, you also look at now what Jacoby can bring to the table, and that is the ability to read at the line of scrimmage and the ability to pick things up that maybe any rookie may have difficulty doing. And especially when you're looking at a makeshift offensive line, I think the Patriots are right now looking at the plan that they set for Drake prior to the off-season workout program, prior to rookie mini camp, prior to mini camp, and then obviously training camp. They see things us mere mortals don't see when it comes to what their preparation is going to look like and what their expectations are. The Alex Van Pelt, Scott Peters, T.C. McCartney, obviously Gerard Mayo is the head coach. They're all looking right now through the looking glass, and they're not seeing just black and white. They're seeing the gray areas of where Drake May is either ready for pro-level competition or maybe not ready per their plans. There's not a lot not to like about his game. You mentioned him being able to go off script and make plays and things that you usually don't see from a rookie quarterback. But at this time, I think the Patriots are probably going to be prudent, knowing what they're going to have to go through when it comes to, getting their quarterback ready and getting their roster ready. So those are the reasons why I believe Jacoby will be the starter to start the season. But I think you're right. I think right around week 5, you're going to start to see that itch from the fans, definitely from the media, and I think from the players themselves. They want to go out there and they want to be a part of something that's going to be the long-term future of this team, not necessarily just the short term. So that's just scratching the surface when it comes to the New England Patriots roster. Some surprises along the way for the New England Patriots. Who was the top surprise, and what does it mean for the roster as a whole? Mike Brauner and I will talk about that and more when this episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast continues right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Locked On listeners, you've heard us talk a lot about FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And with the NFL season fast approaching, I know you all out there in Patriots Nation are going to be looking at FanDuel for all of their offerings regarding the Patriots opener against the Bengals, the home opener against the Seahawks, and so much more. Well, we have something a little different for you. Now, through September 22nd, all FanDuel customers can bet $5 and get a 3-week free trial of NFL Sunday Ticket from YouTube and YouTube TV. Then, with a YouTube TV base plan, you'll be able to watch every regular season Sunday afternoon out-of-market game. All you need is a Google account and a current form of payment, and you can cancel at any time. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to download America's #1 sportsbook. Patriots fans, thank you once again for joining us here today on Locked On Patriots. It is 53-man roster cutdown day for your New England Patriots and across the NFL. So thank you for hopefully making us your first listen each and every day here on the Locked On Podcast Network. And folks, if you've made Locked On Patriots your first listen, we thank you for being a proud everydayer. We appreciate you more than words can say. And also, we want to drop a little friendly hint to make your second listen our good friends over at Locked On Fantasy Football. All of our fantasy analysts working tirelessly to bring you the insight that you can find only here on the Locked On Podcast Network to help you win your fantasy league. Locked On Fantasy Football, just like Locked On Patriots, is a proud part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And joining me here today to help break down the Patriots 53-man roster, the surprises, and what's to come is my good friend and my esteemed colleague at Athlon Sports Patriots Country, Michael Brauner. And Mike, we've talked about the Patriots quarterback position. Obviously, the most popular of the topics on Cutdown Day is going to be where the Patriots quarterbacks are going. They're three strong right now with Jacoby Brissett, Drake May, and Joe Milton. But a lot of the other positions did have some surprise cuts. And there were a lot of surprise retentions as a result. I don't want to steal your thunder, my friend. I want you to go in fresh without any lead whatsoever. When you look at this roster from top to bottom, offense and defense, what was the biggest surprise cut from this team? Either one or several players that you expected to make the 53-man roster that didn't make it this time around?
I'll actually take it another direction and give you a surprise guy that made the roster. I was shocked to see Kayshon Boutte make the roster, and the team is currently carrying 7 receivers with Kendrick Bourne designated to return as well. Hopefully after 4 weeks, we'll see what happens there. He's going to start the season on the PUP list, and we'll see what happens. I don't know if the plan at this point is to, bring Bourne back after 4 weeks and then release someone who's currently in the room. I have a hard time believing that they're going to roster 8 receivers when Bourne does come back. So, I mean, there's 7 guys on there right now. And I don't know what the plan is long term. And I think a lot of Patriots fans are excited about the potential of Boutte. And I get why. And he made some plays this preseason. And the reports around him were really positive throughout camp. I did not expect them to carry 7 receivers. And he was kind of felt like he was going to be the odd man out just because of the value Jalen Reagor brings to special teams. I don't know if Reagor's going to be the odd man out. Maybe Boutte has an audition for the first month of the season to see what happens. Because obviously Bourne is a lock once he comes back, as he should be. But moving forward from there, I mean, they're carrying Douglas, Polk, Baker, Osborne, Reagor, Thornton, and Boutte. So, I mean, that's 7 guys. It was an interesting situation in the wide receiver room because obviously they're near the bottom of the league. No one's going to question that. But there were still 7, 8, even 9 guys who you could make a legitimate argument for they should be on the roster. So I didn't know what they were going to do. It seemed like someone was going to be the odd man out. And as it appears, no one was the odd man out, at least not yet.
Boutte is someone that I've talked about several times here on these airwaves about being someone I would retain. And the reason I said that I would retain Kayshon is not only because of the explosive ability that he has in terms of being a potential weapon at the catch point, but his ability to run routes, I think, is something that Alex Van Pelt and this Patriots offensive coaching staff is going to love to see and love to be able to roster in the future. Kayshon had a very good spring. He had a very good summer, an even better summer. Disappeared a little bit in the final preseason game, which I thought could make his ability to make this roster a bit tenable. But obviously the Patriots saw enough in the previous 2 preseason games and all throughout the preseason and all throughout the training camp process in order to be able to give him that roster spot. Now, obviously, Tyquan Thornton was someone at the beginning a lot of people thought was going to have difficulty cracking this 53-man roster. He went out there and had a very good summer and really came in, bulked up a little bit, showed and put in the work, and I think impressed the coaching staff enough to be able to earn him not just a spot on this roster, but a prominent one. He may end up being one of your starters. I think when all is said and done, he will be. Patriots are 7 deep at wide receiver right now, but that is also a very precarious position to be in because, like we said, the Patriots may still be adding to this roster and making tweaks. If you're going to do that, that is a possibility that they may look to that positional group to be able to make cuts. So keep a sharp eye there. That's a very good choice in terms of Booty being someone who is a surprise make on this roster. A lot of people had him on the outside looking in, and I understand where you're coming from.
Because I like Bude, and I hadn't even thought of the point that you just brought up that they'll probably claim someone off a waiver. They're definitely going to claim someone off waivers. We'll talk about that in a little bit. But, who's the next guy? Who's the odd man out at that point? I would personally rather keep Bude than Rieger. Because I don't think Rieger is going to bring you anything on the offensive side of the ball. For the most, I mean, we've seen that through 3 years of his NFL career. He's fast, but that's about it. So I understand he's valuable on special teams, but you have a lot of guys on this team who can excel in the special teams department. I get the argument for having a designated returner on the roster, but when you have Marcus Jones and Demario Douglas and guys like that who can do it just as well, I understand they're more Demario Douglas, especially. God, it made me nervous having him returning punts in the preseason. But yeah, I mean, ultimately one still may be cut, so it's going to be an interesting thing to keep an eye on. Again, I'm not upset that they kept Bude. I was just definitely a little bit surprised.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people were when it came to those types of decisions. And I think you're going to find that you're very like-minded with a lot of Patriots fans out there in terms of having Booty on this roster. I think he gives you more upside than Rieger as well. I'm in agreement with you there, but we'll see. If the special teams acumen is as important to the Patriots as it has been in years past, I think that could be an interesting decision for them to make. But that's where I believe they may look to trim some of the roster fat, so to speak, if they are going to pick up some players on the waiver wire or keep an active eye on who's available, even post waiver wire and post cuts to see who they may want to add in terms of veterans. So very astute observation, Michael. I'm going to go a little bit of a different route here in terms of who I thought was a surprise cut for this team, and that's Kevin Harris. I really expected throughout this preseason process, throughout training camp, that Kevin had done enough to earn a roster spot. I thought his knowledge of the system would give him a little bit of a leg up on the competition. And that's not to say that JaMycal Hasty did not earn his way onto this roster. I fully believe that he did. And I actually, if I were making the roster decisions, would have carried 4 running backs. I think Alex Van Pelt loves the run. He uses the run to establish everything that makes this offense go. And to me, if you're going to try to protect a young quarterback or protect any quarterback against a makeshift offensive line, you want to make sure that these guys that are going out there have the ability to do it. And I think that someone like a JaMycal Hasty gives you a shiftiness, a burst that gives you that ability to kind of have some uncertainty, because this kid can receive out of the backfield as well. I love that part of JaMycal Hasty's game. 20 receptions along with 126 receiving yards and 3 total touchdowns during his time with the Jaguars. So this kid can get the job done there. But Harris is not only that guy that can give you that ability, that strength in the red zone to be able to power in touchdowns from a couple of yards out, but he showed you the other night that he's got a strong initial burst, something that I don't think he gets enough credit for, as well as the ability to make tacklers miss. So maybe the Patriots see something we don't. Maybe they bring back Kevin as a member of the practice squad, or maybe he did enough to warrant a spot on someone else's 53-man roster, and he gets picked up in short time. Folks, we'll be able to see that when the Patriots and all NFL teams enter that process, and the waiver wires will be complete tomorrow. So keep a sharp eye. We're going to be back here again tomorrow to break down all of the Patriots roster moves right here on Locked On Patriots. But, Michael, as much as roster surprises are fun to talk about, the biggest question on the 53-man roster for every team is, what does it mean now for this team that's about to take the field? We know what the Patriots roster is going to look like, but where are the biggest needs? Where are the biggest roster holes that still exist on this team? Well, I think everybody's going to point at the offensive line, and we're going to talk a little bit about the offensive line, but we're not going to leave the rest of the roster on the cutting room floor either. Mike and I are going to discuss our thoughts on where the biggest needs are for your New England Patriots when this episode of the Locked On Patriots podcast wraps up right here on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Pats fans, thank you once again for joining us here today on Locked On Patriots. And it is 53-man roster cut down day for your New England Patriots. That's carrying 3 quarterbacks, 3 running backs, 9 offensive linemen, 7 cornerbacks, 5 safeties. Yeah, the Patriots definitely going deep at a lot of big-time positions. But what on this roster still concerns the Foxborough faithful? What catches the sharp eye of guys like me and my good friend Michael Brauner joining me here today on this show, breaking all of it down? What is going to catch our sharp eye as the Patriots' biggest need still to come? One thing that we can all agree on, Mike, is that roster cutdown day for all NFL teams, there are still going to be positions of need for all teams. There's still going to be places on this roster where you believe the Patriots or any team needs to upgrade. For the purposes of our conversation today, folks, we're going to limit it to the Patriots because, after all, it is Locked On Patriots. So, Mike, when you look up at this roster, where on this roster do you believe the Patriots' deficiencies are the greatest, and which areas do you believe they're going to address in short order?
The offensive line. If there's an area where you said glaring weakness, I mean, Sunday was, and I get it was a preseason game, albeit against non-NFL starters. It was truly one of the worst offensive line performances I've ever seen in terms of penalties. Chuck Okafor just took another, illegal procedure penalty as we sit here today. It feels like, he took 12 of them, and of course negated that awesome Drake May rolling out to his left touchdown. And I don't know. I don't think you're finding a franchise left tackle on the waiver wire, but some depth. And then City Sal got hurt in the preseason game. I haven't seen a status update on him, but. Maybe Cole Strange is back earlier than expected. He's not starting the season on the IR. He's starting it on the PUP list. So I guess that's a positive sign. But man, it's ugly there. It's really, really bad. And it's, the reason why we opened the show today talking about, why Jacoby Brissett is probably going to start. Because I do believe if the offensive line wasn't a complete liability, Drake May would be starting week 1. So, it kind of just is what it is. Well, I saw a guy like Will Clapp was released by the Lions today. He's a center. I don't know if he's played some guard in his career. I hadn't looked a ton at the offensive linemen who are released, but there's talent out there. There's better talent out there than is in the room right now. So, not to take the obvious, I would say running back depth as well. I'm glad you brought up Kevin Harris. He's who I would have said if Boutte didn't catch my eye on the surprises. So, yeah, I would love to see them bring back Kevin Harris on the practice squad. Probably would have rather seen them keep Harris over Hasty, but I think you're almost splitting hairs at that point between the two of them. So, 3 running backs and 7 wide receivers. I am a little bit concerned about running back depth. I feel pretty good about where the defense is at as a whole. You're asking a lot out of Keon White, but it is what it is. And then linebacker wise, I kind of expected Joe Giles Harris to make the roster over Christian Ellis. So that was a little bit of a surprise there, but I don't really have any issue with any of the moves they made there. I think, if they're going to, knowing now they have to release a guy to bring in a guy, it's offensive line and keep an eye on that 7 deep wide receiver group, also the 7 deep corner group.
Yeah, without question. And I think it begins and ends with the offensive line. I don't think anyone is surprised to hear us talk about where the Patriots need to upgrade. And look at the linemen that made the team. Chukwuekorafo, City So, David Andrews, Michael Wenu, Vidarian Lowe, Caden Wallace, Layden Robinson, Nick Leverett, Michael Jordan. Michael, a little bit of a surprise maybe over a guy like Calvin Anderson, who got released with an injury designation. But you're not looking at guys that really, I think, a lot of people expected to make this roster. Antonio Mafi, I think, is someone the Patriots wanted to give a look at as a potential backup center, and it simply did not work out. And I think Nick Leverett ended up beating him out for that. Now, that's not to say that they're issue-free when it comes to backup center, because Jake Andrews is on season-ending IR. His season is over. If David Andrews has a moment where he can't get in there and play, or he's going to be out for any extended period of time, and folks know I'm not giving you inside information. This is all hypothetical. We're hoping that David has a completely healthy season and does not have any problem. You're looking at a liability because you're seeing snap issues coming from that middle when David Andrews is not under center or he's not snapping the ball. So this is something that needs to be addressed. You mentioned Will Clapp. It wouldn't surprise me to see the Patriots maybe go in line for a center or someone that can come in and play backup center, move Nick Leverett back to his traditional position as a guard, utilize him in that fashion. I think also the Patriots are going to have to be very mindful of the health of both Lowe and now City So, who left Sunday night's game in the nation's capital in a walking boot. Usually not a good sign. We're awaiting any type of official confirmation of exactly what happened and what City's status is going to be. Patriots are scheduled to hit the practice field on Wednesday afternoon. I think that's going to be telltale to find out if he's there, if he's going to be out for an extended period of time. New England definitely will have to watch that. But the fact that he wasn't given an injury designation leading into this game leads me to believe that if he is going to be out, it won't be for a long period of time. So obviously the offensive line, Mike, is going to be the area where the Patriots are going to look to upgrade most. If you had to pick a secondary area right now, not necessarily the secondary, but a secondary area where the Patriots might look for additional help. I know you mentioned running backs. Any other area where you'd look, where you'd say on this roster that the Patriots may need to either upgrade or make some moves?
I feel pretty good. Like I said, running back, I wouldn't be surprised if there was some retooling there. Certainly someone brought in on the practice squad. We'll see what happens. We didn't really talk about the kicker battle either. I think when I don't think a franchise kicker is coming available at any time. I think when Joey Sly got brought in, Chad Ryland's clock started ticking, which is unfortunate because they invested serious draft capital into him as a kicker. But no, I mean, for as negative as I kind of am on this roster, I think I feel pretty okay about where they're at in terms of, upgrading us, being realistically able to upgrade a spot on, in waivers. People, they were talking about Trent Williams in San Francisco today. He's dissatisfied. He's holding out. So unless you're trading 2 or 3 first-round picks for Trent Williams and giving him a giant money deal, which honestly is not the worst idea. I would kind of be all for it if they did do that. But unless you're pulling off a move like that, I think what you see is what you get with this roster at this point.
Yeah, I agree with you. And I'm glad that you mentioned the kicker battle because I actually think the Patriots are pretty well set in that regard and will be for the remainder of the season. I was impressed by what I saw from Joey Sly. He was able to kick for distance. All right, he attempted a 64-yarder against the Commanders the other night, did not make that. That's a very difficult kick to make under any circumstances. Hopefully the Patriots are not going to be putting him into 60-plus all that much. But this kid has got the leg to be able to get it done. He's got veteran savvy, veteran experience, the ability to be able to make kicks in difficult conditions. And I think he also is well built and well situated to be able to adapt to some of these new kickoff rules where the kicker is going to have to be a little bit more physical than in years past. Joey came in and I think earned this job. Chad Ryland, I think at this point, that you've seen what his opportunities were here in New England, had every opportunity to earn this job, did not do so. Maybe a change in scenery helps him out, or who knows, maybe he comes back to this team as a member of the practice squad. Carrying a practice squad kicker is a smart move and a very good move for the New England Patriots or any NFL team. So it wouldn't surprise me to see Ryland come back and maybe be the practice squad kicker here if he's able to clear. But that's an area I don't think they need to upgrade. You did mention earlier with the running backs, I wouldn't surprise me to see them try to retain the services of Kevin Harris, but there are some running backs out there. Frank Gore Jr. was cut loose by the Buffalo Bills. That was a little bit of a surprise to me. I thought he had done enough to show his ability to be someone that could be relied upon as a reserve option. Maybe the Patriots kick the tires on him. He's got some explosive ability in those legs and some great pedigree when it comes to being a running back. His dad was one of the best to do it during his era. He showed over the weekend that him and his father shared a post-game hug after the Buffalo Bills and the Carolina Panthers preseason finale. Dad still looks like he can put on a few pads and maybe give about 50 yards off the bench. So maybe some of that rubs off. Who knows, folks? The Patriots have a lot of decisions to make, but the 53-man roster is set. Who did the Patriots leave off that you believe should still be on this team? Who did the Patriots roster that you believe should have been jettisoned? Mike and I have given you our thoughts. We want to hear what you think. So drop a note in the comments section below, and you can feel free to reach out to us at any time on social media at MDABATENFL. And, of course, you can reach out to Mike on Twitter at MBrauner, WNSP. Mike, what can I say? I thank you for joining us here today on 53-Man Roster Cut Down Day. It's a hectic day for anyone that covers the NFL, and we appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule to join us. Before I let you go, please let everyone know what they can expect from the great pen, the great voice of Michael Brauner heading into now what's going to be the home stretch and the readiness of Week 1 in the NFL.
Yeah, check out Patriots Country on Athlon Sports. Mike and I are doing a lot of good stuff there. You can catch my thoughts and ramblings on the Patriots always at mbrauner WNSP on Twitter, BRAUNER.
Absolutely, folks. And anytime Mike puts pen to paper or voice to microphone when it comes to WNSP, it's appointment reading, appointment listening, appointment viewing. You're always going to be well informed, well entertained, and you can't ask for anything more than that. And don't forget to keep it right here on the Locked On Podcast Network for your next episode of Locked On Patriots, where we continue to evaluate the Patriots roster. Did the Patriots make a waiver claim? If so, who's a new member of this roster? If not, did they do the right thing by going with this initial 53? All those questions will be answered in due time. And of course, it's never too early to take an early look at Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, which will be the New England Patriots Week 1 opponent. All of that and more right here on the Locked On Patriots podcast. But in the meantime, I'm your host, Mike Debate, and on behalf of my guest today, Michael Brauner, I encourage all of you to stay safe and to stay well and to be the change you wish to see in the world. Have a great day, everyone, and we'll see you back here again next time on Locked On Patriots.